Fracture. What a beautiful and unique map, home to some of the most exciting Valorant games, probably my favorite map to watch in pro play. But if I get this abysmal, abhorrent piece of crap map in ranked one more time, I might lose my mind because people don't know how to play this map. If I have to listen to one more 0-10 teammate say, guys, we need to start pushing, we're on defense, just hold sight. My parents are siblings. Calm. Fracture is a map that is literally designed to make it necessary for defenders to push out and take space. And there's a very clear reason for this. Because the defender spawn is in the middle of the map rather than on the opposite side of the attacker's spawn, it means, unlike other maps where there's some kind of prep work you need to do to create a split push, taking mid space, for example, instead on Fracture, that is readily available. And if defenders don't do anything to interrupt this advantage that the attackers have, attackers will just run over defenders in most rounds. A split push is one of the most effective tools that you have as an attacker. The wider your angle of attack, the harder it is for defenders to cover all angles at once. Fracture, you effectively get to split push with a full 180-degree scope. The consequence of this, as defenders, if you just sit and try and hold sight, you're going to get crunched. You've got no real fallback options, and both sites have this space that spans across the middle of them between site and spawn that attackers can cut off and pincer you, separating you from your teammates trying to rotate into site. If you push out and take space, it means you can stagger the attacker's crunch. You don't get hit both sides at the same time. You can take and contest this fight, and then you're able to reapply pressure back to the attackers. By holding this space and having defense rotates come through spawn or flanking, then you can be the one crunching onto site as the attackers try and hold for post plant. Check out this round from Fnatic versus Gentlemates. They have a real passive setup. The only one taking any kind of forward space is Chamber, and that's arguable that he's even contesting much space. Fnatic are trying to play for a trap in B tower where they have a stun from Breach plus the raise nade. Between needing to shoot the boombot and the flash, Kayak's not able to contest this space effectively, even with the cannon there. Beautiful crunch play here from Gentlemates as the main players are pushing up and Fnatic on defense has to fall back. But wait, look at Boaster's positioning here. He pushes through the smoke into Arcade to create effectively a fast flank crunch here against mates. Catches Cypher on a timing reloading with knife out, and all of a sudden the pressure is back on Gentlemates to try and close out this round. But with Heaven Control lost, there's just too much to worry about, too many angles. If it wasn't for Bosa's repositioning to retake Heaven through Arcade, Fnatic would have lost this round.
Breach entry is what they were waiting for. AC's fired the gun and the race is on.
The other unique thing about Fracture is the fact that it has 4 orbs: A main, Dish, Arcade, and B main. That means that this map is very friendly towards ultimates. If you have ultimates that you can use to win rounds, you have more access to getting them off. The final important feature is the zip lines. You can use these to cross from the south side to the north side or from spawn to bridge. This is just another tool in the attacker's arsenal and sometimes defenders that you can use to reposition and outmaneuver in the mid round. Or, you know, kill the whole enemy team.
Pure silence. No!
No way! No way!
Like this!
No way!
If you're ever unsure what to do on attack, just know that you can't go wrong with farming orbs. If you're using the comp from my cookbook, the only rounds where you don't want to be farming at least 1 to 2 orbs are rounds where you already have ults that you can use to win those rounds. That's where you can switch the pace up with those ults, go fast, get onto site, and put the pressure back on the defenders. But in every other round, defaulting for orbs is never a bad idea. Especially if defense is prioritizing a main control, you can get towards the B orbs, which are both attacker-sided. I have a double orb default in the playbook that you can use at the start of each round before transitioning into a site hit. On the A side of the map, this A main orb is very much for the defenders. What we'll talk about on the defensive portion of this video is how to control A main quite effectively, which allows you to have this A main orb and also have this really strong space. As attackers, what that means is we need to find a way to be able to counter contest this point or re-clear this point if we want this to be able to go A. There's a few different options that you have, including waiting out the util, then counter-aggressing, pressuring B to pull players away from that space. Or if you're feeling game, you can try and brute force your way through. Because if we want to go A, A main is crucial. A main gives us so many options. Not only can we go straight into site through this choke point, but we also have the option to open up the door, push sands, take heaven space, go up rafters, but mainly once we have sands, we have a crossfire if we have someone lurking dish. And now we've got any site players completely trapped. They have to worry about players coming outside of A main, but they also have to worry about us spamming this, throwing our util. If they wanted to get out from A main, you know, they worry about this and they can cross the river of death quite easily. But if you take sands pressure first, this player has to play on site. There's no getting out for them. Their best option is to maybe fight. Maybe they flash out. Maybe defenders flash out of heaven here. But they have to try and fight on site and defend this. Just look what I've cooked up in this cookbook. How is anyone meant to be able to play on site? And the last orb, the dish orb. Now, this is probably the most 50-50 orb in the game. You can see it's quite a wide gap for defenders to push out and take this, but also for attackers, have to push up through a really long kill zone, and you're pushing into a vertical double stack potential angle and different util options for the defenders. It's very doable to take this orb for both teams. Whoever commits more to taking it is probably going to get it. If you commit like a stun here, defenders can't really do much. You just have to give up the space, right? They get onto the angle. Now you have to go back into the angle. You can get flashed. As an attacker, pushing dish and farming orb is great, but it's quite hard to get out of. There's a few specific agents who do excel at making this playable for you though. Raze being one of them. Neon can wall out. And if you follow my cookbook, you'll see Phoenix can wall and flash out as well. But you never want this to be your main focal point as an attacker. It's just too hard and awkward to get out of dish. As you can see here, EG even invests the showstopper. Raze gets out with a double satchel. But because they don't have A main control, MW0 uses his fault line as EG is trying to come out. And Derek and Nature are stuck in dish while they fight for A main, staggering that split push. Havoc is able to trade showstoppers with Icy. They keep A main control, win the fight in A main, and EG is left to rotate towards a double sentinel B site. Defense. As defenders, one of the best things that you can do is be proactive. That's a very specific word that I'm using. Proactive doesn't necessarily mean aggressive. It doesn't mean recklessly pushing. It means trying to take the initiative away from the attackers and deny them options by playing forward and taking space and getting out of sight. And one of the primary ways that you're going to be able to do that is by fighting for A main control. You have many different options that you'll see in the cookbook. The most standard way that teams are going to fight for this is with a breach stun across here and then maybe a smoke. You're able to push someone up through door or up through A main, and you can now hold this. You have, a potential breach flash to follow up if they try and swing, if they try and push, and it also gives you access to farm this orb. Now, if attackers have to go A, they have to have a way to deal with this hold that you've got. And depending on how much you invest in it, it can be pretty unbreakable. Their other options are go B. Their other options are come through dish. What do we say about the attacker's options to come through dish? It's really hard, especially if you have A main, right? Speaking about dish, or if we want to contest this dish space, it's a fairly simple angle to hold as a solo player. So you can put someone like your Vice here with the flash if you want to punish a lurk. But this particular angle, just defending this orb, not playing for info or anything like that, is very much defender sided if you're playing for this angle and not pushing out to get the orb, right? As soon as you try and push out to get the orb, now you've got to worry about this lurk up here. You've got to worry about a wide swing. You got multiple angles they can tuck in here. So if you try and farm, they could be here, they could be here. Can be dangerous. But playing this angle particularly, you have high, you have low, you have tucked, off angle, you can jiggle and flash. You can defend this orb quite well. If played correctly, it should take two people to push you back off of this line. It should take util and someone swinging off of that. One person with their own util, and you can counter util back. B-site's quite an interesting site in Valorant. I think it's one of my favorite from a design standpoint. And the way that I want to look at this is from heaven. Control B-site. That's the name of the game here, right? If attackers make no effort to take heaven from you, it makes retaking this site super easy because you're effectively behind them. If they have to worry about people entering from spawn plus potential flanks and you're just chilling in here and you're able to take this kind of fight from heaven. It's really, really nice. The other thing about heaven is that it helps you defend this arcade space, which is one of the spaces that we really care about controlling. It's similar to a main control, not quite as defender sided, but the reason why we want to fight for this space, there's this orb here that attackers will want to farm. We have the option to try and farm this as well, but also it's very defensible. You have this box to play through. You have verticality with heaven. Someone can play close, potentially with a flash. You have options for reach stunning through this line, and attackers just have to swing from this one corner unless they come up through unders. Okay, and a more sophisticated team will recognize that and try to fight that way, making it a little bit more difficult for you. But you've got like 3 very good spots to play for this one choke point. It's hard for attackers to get through this without committing heavily to denying it from you. The other thing about B site is that unlike A site, you need passive info to be able to guarantee no lurker into spawn. You cannot safely hold every angle in sight, because if they try and lurk through A main, yeah, you might hold something like this, but now you're just, if they execute, you're just dead on sight. If you try and hold heaven, yeah, you can stop the arcade guy, but someone might just lurk up main and into spawn. So you need some kind of trip, some passive info utility to be able to completely effectively hold all of these pathways. On A, it's a lot simpler, because if I'm playing a site, for example, or maybe I'm playing heaven, doesn't matter where, if someone wants to lurk through silently, I can guarantee that I can see them. If they want to come through door, they have to make noise. If they want to go through site to spawn, they have to cross this sight line, which I'm either holding from here or from site. If they want to come lurk through drop, they have to make noise. I know that they are trying to lurk through spawn. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Those are the basics of Fracture. If you'd like to learn a little bit more, come join the Discord, ask me any questions you want, download the playbook and use it for your Premier games, or even just look over it for your ranked games. Or if the second part of this video seemed a bit flat, I had to rush through and I wanted to get it out in time for you guys to practice. Fortunately, my computer blue screened while I was editing and corrupted the file, so I effectively had to start from scratch. Just ran out of time to polish up the second half of this video, and I'd rather get it out to you sooner so you have time to learn and practice before your games finish. The plan for these going forward is to accelerate them to come out earlier in the week and then have agent guides that accompany them. And then this channel can be a library of agent and map guides and theory and VOD reviews and all those kind of good things for you for the future of this channel. So please subscribe if you want to see more. There's lots more coming, I promise. Join the Discord, and I will see you next week for Lotus.